Hello, and welcome to Out of Our Shell, the podcast, with your two hosts, Liv and Amber. We're the podcast that's going to be bringing you some amazing guests, some great topics that matter to our community, and we're going to try and have a little bit of fun along the way. Now, normally, we would be actually inviting a guest onto this podcast. That's the whole point of this podcast. But because we're doing a pilot, we thought we'd take a little bit of an opportunity to maybe introduce ourselves first, the stories that kind of make us who we are, and how Out of Our Shell and the current iteration of this podcast came to be. What do you think, Liv?
Yeah, I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to share our stories with
Mm-hmm.
the viewers and the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Perfect. Great. Let's just take a quick little break real quick. We'll introduce the watch band that definitely goes along with this story. And
Hmm.
when we get back, we will figure out somehow who is going to interview who first. Talk to you all soon.
Exciting.
Hi, it's me again, Amber. And since we don't really have any sponsors or advertisers yet on the podcast, hint, hint, Chick-fil-A, give me a call. We can rehab your little image problem you're having. I don't know. I thought I'd maybe talk about like what started it all for Out of Our Shell. And that's that Out of Our Shell Trans Pride watch band that I designed. It's a high quality silicone band that was designed with the trans community in mind. And while it bears the colors of our Trans Pride flag, I was not exactly out of my shell yet when I designed it. I wanted something that could help me celebrate my pride, even though I wasn't 100% ready to be completely visible yet. And that subtle design has actually helped it earn a perfect 5-star rating on Etsy. Also, $10 from every single purchase goes directly to the Trevor Project, so you know that your money is going to a good place with this. It's available in both the small and large size watch band, and it's available for every Apple Watch Apple has ever made. So I'd encourage you to head on out to Etsy and check it out for yourself. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the pod. So Amber, since we're interviewing each other,
Mm-hmm.
we need to figure out who's going to go first.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I
And we
was
probably
thinking
should have
during the
figured
break.
this out before. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking during the break, maybe
Uh-huh.
we could do a rock, paper, scissors. And whoever wins gets
I
to
like
interview
this.
first.
I like this idea. Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
All
Okay,
right,
so
here we go.
the winner is the interviewer, correct? Like the
Yeah.
winner is going to do the interviewing. Okay.
Let's
all
do
right.
that. Yeah.
All right,
All
here
right.
we go.
You ready?
All right, ready?
Up.
All right. Rock. Wait, we have to do like rock, paper, scissors, right? And then it's shoot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Let's do it. Ready? Okay, ready? Rocks,
Rock,
paper,
paper,
scissors.
scissors.
Shoot. What'd you do? What did you do? Scissors?
I did scissors. I did
We're
scissors.
such lesbians. We're such lesbians. All right.
Yeah. All right,
Let's
here we
do
go.
it. Is it okay? We do it again.
One
Ready?
more time. All
All
right.
right. Ready? Rocks, paper, scissors. Shoot. Okay. This is.
Wow, we are thinking alike.
Yeah.
One more time.
This works out well. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Ready? Here we
okay,
go.
here we go.
All right. Rocks, paper, scissors. Shoot. All right. You
Oh,
won. You won.
okay,
I was
so
scissoring again. You won.
yes. It's the girl in you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so
Yes. This is a serious podcast. Let's keep it that
so
way.
yeah. So I do want to go into a little bit of history about you and us before we go into you and your story.
Okay.
I had the pleasure of buying a watch band
Mm-hmm.
from Out of Our Shell.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bought it, I remember I was getting it on Instagram and I wasn't too sure, like, I was kind of weary. It's Instagram. And I was like,
Oh my
so
God.
I think I reached out to
The
you.
Instagram store is horrible. Yep.
Yeah, because they don't give you a notification it was sent out or anything, and it's just their system. But regardless, it all worked out. I reached out to you and you got back to me. And then I got it and I had the little thank you card that you put in there. And it just was like, the message was so moving to me. And so I think I we were talking, and you had posted something, I think, about the thank you card, if I remember correctly,
Oh yeah,
regardless of how it
anytime.
was.
Yeah, anytime anybody like sends me a note or, like a
Yeah,
picture of something, like I always want to post that and everything because
yeah,
it warms my heart, like,
yeah.
because here is something that like I created is creating happiness elsewhere. Like I don't know, you
Hmm.
just want to keep sending that out into the world, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to you saying, "Oh well, I have mine at my on my desk at work," and I think you said something along the lines of, "Oh, that you just made my day," or whatever, because
Mhm.
that's what who you are.
Yeah.
You just and then from there it was basically history. We just started chatting and getting to know each other,
Yep.
um,
Absolutely.
and getting to know you was an absolute, it was just a pleasure, and I'm so
Thank
happy that
you.
I know you. So
Well, the
with
feeling is very
that,
mutual.
yeah, with that, well, let's go ahead and go into your story. And I'd like to
Okay.
start basically
Okay.
maybe childhood, and we can kind of go into that from into early adulthood, and
Okay.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Childhood into early adulthood. Well, I
yeah,
mean, I come from, I think from, the story starts, I come from a fairly conservative religious household on the East Coast, kind of one of those Irish Catholic,
mm,
households with tons
yeah,
of cousins and aunts and uncles and everything. And I really think that, like, if you talk to any of my, like relatives and everything, they would have always said I was like just a little bit different than maybe some of them, if you will. I didn't
yeah,
really fit in with the guys. I was always kind of playing more with the girls, like, kind of that typical trans story of identifying more with what at that time felt like the opposite gender,
uh-huh,
and
yeah,
like I can just there. I think that like in these conservative religious families, like this desire to be homogenous, this desire to fit in with society or what they feel the societal pressures are is
mm,
very high. And so I definitely heard those like don't be a girl, don't act like a girl,
yeah,
all that type of stuff. And you internalize that, I think, and you try your best just to please like the adults around
mm,
you and everything.
yeah,
And so yeah, I just kind of like I locked like that all away and like kind of struggled with my mental health like as I was going
mm,
through my teenage years. Like a lot of that was wrapped up in like my weight. Like if you
mm,
take a look at some of my older pictures like on Instagram and everything, like I think I've
yeah,
have a few up there from like maybe my early 20s where I mean like I was probably close to double the size
yeah,
I am today. Like so much of it was like wrapped up in that for me. I was definitely um, I don't think that I've ever been like hospitalized or anything for trying to hurt myself, but I was just one of those people that was like I guess like passively killing myself,
yeah,
or I guess actively killing myself slowly with
yeah,
everything that I was doing myself, and it just was one of these like whatever, right? Like
yeah,
life was just kind of chugging along. It didn't really have a whole lot of passion to it and everything, and
uh,
I didn't feel like I ever really fit in anywhere, whether it was middle school, high school, in my own family, or anything like that. So it
yeah.
was difficult. It definitely was difficult, you know.
During this time, were you able to put like what was going on with you? I think maybe, a lot of us have no idea what was going on, but were you at any point have a realization, like at that age, that possibly you were, female?
Well, so you're taught like a set of like laws,
Mm-hmm.
in your Bible, in like in
Yeah.
your society and everything, and yeah, sure. Like I absolutely like had those feelings. Like I can remember
Mm-hmm.
doing like all sorts of stuff in like secret, like when nobody was around, when
Yeah.
nobody was looking. Even as young as a child. Like one of my earliest memories, and I highly doubt my mom's ever going to listen to this podcast. So one of
Mm-hmm.
my earliest memories was almost getting caught like trying on my mom's bra in her bathroom and everything, and it was just this like, and anytime that like something like that happened where you got like that close, it just shoved you that far back into the
Yeah.
closet. And I mean, like for me personally, not having a vocabulary at that age, we're talking like, gosh, we're talking like what, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, like at that point, like you don't really have that vocabulary for like transgender at that time period, or if we were talking about it in the public, I certainly wasn't exposed to it. And we weren't teaching anything in the schools about like Stonewall riots or anything like that. Like I didn't hear
Yeah.
about that until I was an adult, like, and I was doing my
Yeah.
own research. And so like the only time that you saw people that were, I guess, gender incongruent or gender diverse was on shows like Jerry Springer, Ricky Lake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where they were ostracized, where they would talk about how they lost their family members, like they were ridiculed, they were made fun of. And so like, to be honest with you, I thought I just had a mental disease that I needed to keep quiet about. And I did a fairly decent job of doing that. Like everything was in private. I scratched my itches when I needed to, and I just kind of kept it to myself,
Yeah. Yeah. So, leading into even further along in your life, you meet your wife, and can I say her name?
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah. I'm sure she'll be a
Sabrina.
guest on that at one point.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
Sabrina.
So you meet Sabrina, and how does that start, and how does that dynamic work with your struggles that you have at this point?
Yeah, totally. So, obviously, like, first date, I'm not showing up in a dress or anything like that. I'm certainly not talking about any of this type of stuff. But again, even at that point in time, because we've been together for 15 years, so, we were really fairly young when we got together, and we weren't talking about it. Nobody was talking about, like, literal transgender transitioning, or again, if they were, it wasn't in my pockets or the people that I was hanging out with or what I was reading on the internet. Like this was not a knowledge for me yet, like not vocabulary that I had. And so slowly over time, like, we've been together for 15 years. 5 of that I've been like actively transitioning. So those 10 years, it was like there was nothing really hidden. I mean, like she, like I was doing stuff in the house. I trusted her, like dressing and just experimenting with like different things and different looks and all sorts of stuff. And like for her, that was just kind of like, okay, this is who that person is, and I love this person, and I wasn't causing any harm or anything like that to anybody. So it was just one of those things. Of course, we knew that society was what it was, but also at that time, I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I have the ability to change my life. I have the ability to be happy. It was just kind of like, I guess this is as good as it gets. And so it was, I mean, like everything was fine. Sabrina's a really wonderful person in that, she, I guess, really never questioned anything because she kind of she saw the love that we had. She saw the family that we had, like we both did. And so like, I don't know, like we're both live and let live people, so like that type of stuff never really kind of crossed our minds as to like, is there anything wrong here or anything. So
that's
that
wonderful.
probably leads us up to that inflection point of when it actually does start to change, right?
Well, I want to talk about your daughter for a second.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So talk about when you had your daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then how, how your relationship was with her through this, not the transition part, but like, during the struggles, were you open with her as well? And first, also go into your daughter a little bit, because I think.
Oh yeah, okay. I think that's probably
viewers
pretty
might wanna
relevant
know.
here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I do have a transgender daughter, and she's a minor. So like, we just won't go into like who this person is and whatnot. But so she's 15 years old now, and so you go back and everything. Like, was she aware of what was going on? I mean, like my my personality, my attitude really hasn't changed all that much. And in fact, post transition, she was just like, well, you were always kind of like very feminine, and so that when I told her, and that kind of fast forwards a little bit, but when I told her, there really wasn't any surprise to her, at least in her mind. She didn't display any surprise or anything to me. She was just like, okay. But at that time, she hadn't told me that she was transgender. And so here we are both like probably like doing things in secret, like around each other without even really knowing what's going on or anything. Yeah. And so,
it's amazing like what the world would be if we were just open with each other.
Oh my God, right? Absolutely. Because like here's this poor trans daughter who has a trans mom, and everybody's doing everything in secret. And you're right, like wouldn't it be amazing if like we could all be honest, if we had the education, if there was not such a stigma around it, So yeah, absolutely. So, but I mean, I think that growing up, and she had her struggles and I had mine, and we were all just kind of chugging along and doing the best that we could. But I think that like now that we're actually addressing like the things that need to be addressed, like, oh my God, life is so much more wonderful for everybody in the family. That's for sure. Yeah.
So now we can lead into the moment when
moment. Yes.
Yeah, when you had finally let Sabrina know.
Yeah, and well, I mean, like she practically found out at the exact same time that I did, because we're talking about like the pandemic now at this point, and we're talking about like right at the start of the pandemic, because I think like the shutdown was like in April, and like that's when like things really started to kind of move ahead for me and everything, and like kind of right before that shutdown. And so it was kind of ironic that like the shutdown happened, and then all of a sudden like we didn't know what to do with our hands. We're all like just kind of sitting there like waiting for direction, and there was a lot of time on Reddit, let's just put it that way. And I'm sure that there's a lot of our listeners and viewers that can understand that, but that was where I educated myself. And I think it started, with memes, with egg in real life, and and just laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, that's me. And and so I don't know. I don't really remember like the train of thought that led up to this, but we went to bed one night, and my mind's spinning and everything, because I think I've made this realization about myself, like, oh, I have the vocabulary for this. I know what this is. Yeah. I know where this is leading. I know what this might mean. And it just felt like something I just had to say. And so I think it was like Thursday night or something like that, and I just kind of sat up in bed, and I was just like, I'm transgender. And like that was that. Like I just kind of threw it out there and everything. And then I was like, woo, glad to get that off my chest. Let's go to bed. And it doesn't work like that at all.
Yeah, so, no, I can imagine. It was probably a very long night.
Yeah, we had some conversation, that's for sure, and that conversation continued on for a long time after that, because even I didn't know what that meant for myself. I think initially I told her, I was like, I'm transgender, but don't worry, I'm not transitioning. I just needed to get that out there. Like I might want to talk to you about hormones later, but we'll get to that maybe one day and everything, because at that point I just needed to be myself. I needed to have that vocabulary. I needed to know what was going on with myself, and that was good enough at that time for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is kind of interesting how I feel. I kind of feel like when we all have that moment where we are finally, the realization. I don't even want to say acceptance yet. The realization that we are trans. I think the very first words are like, well, I'm not going to do a transition right now, Right. So yeah, I think
unless you're like some of my trans man friends, because for whatever reason it's like they're like, I'm transgender and tomorrow I'm getting my top surgery, and I've been on testosterone for 5 years, and my voice just lowered, and yeah, absolutely. So
gosh.
But no, it was definitely not my intention. Or I guess like if you had asked me like, what would your life look like, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, like I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to look like this doing a podcast with another trans woman. In fact, at that time, I didn't even know another trans woman, period. I was the first transgender person that I knew in real life, that I knew of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that can lead us into the next very important topic,
Mm-hmm.
which is at some point you did decide to go ahead and start. You were looking
Mm-hmm.
for community, and the way
Mm-hmm.
that you started looking for community, I think, was a little bit interesting, a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at your Instagram page, you start off right off the bat with "Out of Our Shell."
Mm-hmm.
Can you go into a little bit of the beginnings of Out of Our Shell, and how you
Mm-hmm.
decided that this is what you were going to do? How was it watch bands and so on?
Gosh, there's like a few different pieces to this.
Mm-hmm.
So like why? Like I guess the first piece of like the why was um there was a woman that took a little bit of time to sit down with me one day. Her name is Jessie McGrath, and she's somebody that transitioned a long, long time ago,
Uh-huh.
and kind of like blazed a path here in Ventura County and Los Angeles County, as an out trans woman at a time where like I'm struggling to find the vocabulary back in
Mm-hmm.
like high school and everything, and in my 20s for myself. And so
Yeah.
the fact that somebody was willing to do that for me, there was this desire to kind of like pay it forward somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like there's like the catalyst. Okay, I want to pay it forward somehow. The second thing was during the pandemic, Sabrina and I were very fortunate in that like the company that I was working for kept me employed. They stepped, even though I'm a commissioned employee, they stepped in and put together like kind of like a little bit of a minimum commission guarantee for us. So we were
Uh-huh.
able to be kind of like taken care of. And then all of a sudden we got this like stimulus check in the mail
Yeah.
that we all got and everything. And
Yeah.
with two kids and ourselves, so we got like a fairly sizable stimulus check. I want to say it was like
Yeah.
a little over $2,000. And while everybody could use $2,000, this felt like $2,000 falling out of the sky. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, so I have a catalyst here now, and now I have the financial resources to do something. So like, why
Uh-huh.
a watch band? And I've always really been into health and fitness, and it's been a huge part of like my transition. And I always say that like a big part of transition isn't just like the hormones. It's not just
Yeah.
about like the makeup that you're wearing or the clothes that you're wearing.
Yeah.
It's a holistic approach, right? It's about
Yeah.
like, if like for me, if I was going to transition, like I wanted to be the best version of myself, period.
Uh-huh.
And the transition was part of becoming the best part of myself, period. And so for me, like I was going to the gym, I was exercising, I was doing all sorts of things to, I guess, get myself ready for a transition that I didn't even know was happening, but I was already on my way to becoming like
Uh-huh.
the best version of myself. And I had an Apple Watch. I was tracking all my fitness. I was one of those people that was doing the macros and measuring all the food
Yeah.
and counting all the calories and doing everything. And I mean, it pays off. It works. It's
Uh-huh.
very simple science. And but
Yeah.
one thing I didn't have was a watch band that I loved, and Apple had come out with like their Pride watch band, and I was just thinking to
Uh-huh.
myself like I feel like that Pride watch band, but like that rainbow umbrella, like while I'm under that rainbow umbrella, there's another umbrella over me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
really wished there was something that allowed me to be more specific about the pride that I had for what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was a long time into my transition before I ever even like found myself at a pride celebration or anything like that, because I had never really been included in that community. But
Yeah.
this trans community that I was starting to feel like I was a part of, that was something I really, really felt like I wanted to celebrate and show
Uh-huh.
some type of like inclusivity for that. And so having this catalyst of wanting to pay it forward, having the financial resources to do this, and then having something that like aligned with my goals of health and fitness were kind of like the birth of the watch band, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and out of our shell, like, I guess just the name, like, it was just kind of like, because, oh, the play on word, egg in real life, you know, the memes and everything, a
Yeah.
trans person is coming out of
Yeah.
their shell, you know, cracking out of their
Yeah.
shell. And so
Yeah.
like it all just kind of like worked together,
Yeah.
and yeah, that was just kind of the birth of it. So yeah.
I know that for me, when I saw Out of Our Shell, you know, when you're on Instagram, when you're selling
Yeah.
the watch band,
Yeah.
it just, you know, I mean, it hit home because that's how I worded it when my A cracked, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
same.
yeah,
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
definitely,
For me. Yeah.
definitely a perfect name.
Oh, thank you.
So, can you explain a little bit about how the proceeds work and
Oh, yes. That was another
yeah,
big part too, is okay, so here we have this watch band and everything, and it felt it's hard to say you're paying something forward if you're going to like profit off of it, in my opinion. And so even though I'm like creating this community, like I was like, oh, and there's more that we can do here too with this, because
yeah,
you know, the watch bands themselves, like we were able to create like a lot of them, and that's actually why we can fulfill so quickly. Like they can just like go out the same day that they're ordered, they're all here,
yeah,
we have them physically. And so so the proceeds, so we wanted to give back, right? And we didn't want to like
yeah,
completely profit off of this. We wanted to pay it forward. And so the Trevor Project was like a very, I don't know, it felt very logical to me. I thought back, oh God, like this sucks, like to think back, but I thought back on myself as a kid, and
mm-hmm,
and I just wish that like maybe I had a resource that I could
yeah,
have called or been on a computer or done a text message with or anything, like just to kind of have, just to know that that support was out there. And so for me it was like, okay, well, the Trevor Project's extremely important, and I want to do what I can to make sure that it never goes away, right?
yeah,
And so that's for me, that was where the catalyst was, is I think that, you know, I think that there's a lot of great organizations out there that we could have chosen, but I think one that supports children that are in distress kind of
yeah,
like
yeah,
stands above for me. And
yeah.
so
I know that's what
that's
I
why.
know that's what stood out to me was, you know,
Hmm.
specifically that
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
So, um,
Hmm.
your time is coming up here, so I do want to do a couple
Yeah.
things before we run out of time, and that's
Okay.
kind of just go through a couple things on Instagram.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So, meet the owner. You have a pic on here
Okay, yeah.
that is looks like Amber
Oh,
from
the old Meet the
yes,
Owner, like the old
yes,
throwback photo, like one of my very, in fact,
yeah.
probably like my very
I
first
will.
post of me on here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give the viewers a date here. It's the March
Okay.
31st,
Okay.
2022.
Hmm.
Also happened to be Day of Visibility.
It was,
And I think
yes.
that's why you went ahead and put this picture of
It
yourself on
was,
there.
yeah. It was an
Um,
absolute motivation, because
yeah,
there was a motivation, and there was like a guilt too, because it was like one of
uh,
these things where it's like, here we have a day for our community
yeah,
called Trans Day of Visibility,
yeah,
and here I was like espousing these virtue signaling, let's create a community, let's, you know, do
yeah,
something, let's save the kids, and I'm not even willing to show my own
yeah,
face. And
yeah,
so yeah, there was a big catalyst, there was a big push internally for me to try to be visible, as uncomfortable as it was going to be for myself, as I really wasn't out to a whole lot of people
hmm,
at that point in time. But it was just like, that was the day that I felt like I had to do that.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
very, it's a just a very, you can tell. Yeah, you just look so, you
Look
know,
like a
proud
teenager.
and honestly, you look like a teenager, but
It's
you
like the,
just,
the photo was like 2 or 3 years ago or something like that, and I look
yeah,
like I've
yeah.
aged, like, I don't know. I look like, I don't know. Yeah, I was a trans girl back then, and I feel like a trans woman now. So
Cute. Yeah, really cute. Okay,
what
so we're
else you
gonna
got?
go to I got the day you voted for the first time.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That
I
was a
think,
big deal.
yeah, yeah.
That was a big deal.
You know, I'm just gonna say this now, and I was gonna
Okay.
save it for the closing,
Hmm.
but there's something that I have learned from you about you, and that is that it's not about Amber, and it sometimes I think it should be, um, but you make sure that you always, like you said, you pass it forward, and I think that you pass a lot of yourself forward to other people. And in this particular post, it really struck me how how real that is, because you voted, and you voted for everyone on this list, which is your wife, your kids,
Oh,
trans kids in Florida. And I think this really hit home as to the type of person that you are, at least to me. I know every time I give you praise, you get so uncomfortable,
I
and
don't do well with that. Yeah.
but we don't have to go into all that here right now.
Mm.
But tell me what that day meant to you.
Oh God. I mean, like that was a huge day for me. I'm
Hmm.
gonna try and not get all like emotional here. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Um, it was a big day for me because so like getting to see my name, my real name, Amber
Yeah.
Thompson, on a document that had the ability to change the
Hmm.
course of like where we were at, that to me was like probably so incredibly powerful. Now obviously I live in California, like it's kind of a
Yeah.
guarantee, we're a blue state, all the blue things are going to happen and everything, but like yeah, it was definitely symbolic,
Yeah.
anytime that anything comes up, whether it be women's rights, like I don't know, like racial issues, like issues that affect children, our schools, like all of these things, like voting in my name that I had just legally changed was so incredibly powerful for me. And I don't know, I just that was a huge moment for me. I really, there's so many people that are disillusioned with our political process, and maybe
Uh-huh.
I'm naive, maybe what I mean, like I am a fierce advocate. I try to be as vocal in my activism as
Yeah.
possible, but I really believe in the democratic process. I really believe that, like the way for us to unbury ourselves from this
Hmm.
mess is to be as visible as possible, to normalize the narrative as much as possible, to win over
Yeah.
hearts and minds, and then take all of that to the ballot box and make the change. We've seen it so
Yeah.
many times in the history of America, and this will be no different. It'll be no
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's important to vote. A lot of people think their vote doesn't matter. And, I always say otherwise.
Yeah,
So
no, agreed. Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, that touched me. But I think we're need to go to a break now, and I
Probably.
guess we're gonna go
But
to
then it's
me.
my turn. Yes, exactly. So we're going to take a quick little break. And when
All
we get
right.
back, I'm going to put Liv's feet to the coals then at that point. You ready, Liv?
No, but that's okay.
All right,
We'll
cool.
be
Well,
right
we'll be
back.
right back. Thanks. Hi, it's me again, Amber. And since we don't really have any sponsors or advertisers yet on the podcast, hint, hint, Chick-fil-A, give me a call. We can rehab your little image problem you're having. I don't know. I thought I'd maybe talk about like what started it all for Out of Our Shell, and that's that Out of Our Shell Trans Pride watch band that I designed. It's a high quality silicone band that was designed with the trans community in mind. And while it bears the colors of our trans pride flag, I was not exactly out of my shell yet when I designed it. I wanted something that could help me celebrate my pride, even though I wasn't 100% ready to be completely visible yet. And that subtle design has actually helped it earn a perfect 5-star rating on Etsy. Also, $10 from every single purchase goes directly to the Trevor Project, so you know that your money is going to a good place with this. It's available in both the small and large size watch band, and it's available for every Apple Watch Apple has ever made. So I'd encourage you to head on out to Etsy and check it out for yourself. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back to the podcast. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the pod. It's my turn now. No, I am feeling so much more centered, so much more grounded. Like, I'm already done. I don't know what was worse, having to be interviewed first or being the interviewer, because you had to wait now this whole entire time for me to get to you. So I could see the nerves going up.
Yeah, you're over now, so.
Exactly. Now I just get to relax the rest of the pod, and you get to tell your story now. So.
All right. Well, I'll try to do it justice.
Please. Okay. Speaking of the story, the best place to start at the story is at the beginning of the story. But let's actually, I guess we're actually going to start in the middle of the story. This is going to be a Star Wars story. We're going to start in the middle.
Okay.
And let's start with actually like where you and I picked up. So I told the story of how Out of Our Shell started. And now all of a sudden you've got your watch band. You come into the picture. We've been conversing and everything. What happened next?
So, like I said, I put the card up. And then, I don't know, we talked daily. I had a lot of things going on at the time in my marriage and things like that. And you did what you always do, like you said, paying it forward, just helping others. And, I think that was your initial, take on this girl that was reaching out to you, and this person, I'm going to give this person advice, and then we don't live so close together, but so eventually it'll fade out. And I think I was, maybe that wasn't your thought, but that's how I picture it, right?
Not at all. It was not at all. I was just like, here's another member of our community, and she's wonderful, and I absolutely love talking with her, and we have a lot in common. Like, oh God, Liv, no, not at all. Please. Continue.
So anyways, I had bought some Kim Petras tickets, and I asked my wife if she wanted to go, and it was an immediate no. Immediate no.
Why? She's so much.
She doesn't do concerts. She does not do concerts.
Well, that
okay. I mean, she won't even go to her, like, she's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and she won't even do Taylor Swift. So it's not like anything. It's just she does not do concerts. Okay, and that's
well,
okay.
When you get Taylor
that's
Swift
a
tickets, call me.
Yeah, I will. And so something that you didn't know, so I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
So I had invited my good friend, a friend that I had been has been in my life for 35 plus years.
Okay.
And we're really close. And I was like, oh, Jen doesn't want to go. Do you want to go? And she has no idea who Kim Petras is, right? She has no idea.
Okay. Right.
So she's like, oh yeah. She's like, I'll go. I'll go and support you, and it'll be fun.
Okay.
And then I'm like, maybe that was a mistake. And she's gonna listen to this, right? So it's okay because she loves me. So, but I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I wish I would have gone and invited Amber. So I call her up and I go, you know what? I know another transgender woman and she really would love to go. I haven't asked her yet, but would you mind if I asked her? Yeah. And she's, oh my gosh, I don't even know who Kim Petras is. She's like, you should definitely go with Amber. So I asked you, and we went, and we met up, and we had a blast, absolute blast.
It was awesome. So, it was really, really cool. Yeah. It was like the best invite. It was so serendipitous, and like,
oh gosh, yeah.
Don't talk to strangers on the internet. Like, sorry, mom and dad. Like, just put it on the list, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
It was fun. Was that what you wanted?
Petras concert.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So we went to the Kim Petras. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That was the answer to the question. Absolutely. So we go to the Kim Petras concert, right? And so then, And then from there, like, you know, obviously, like, we've got this now friendship and everything. We're meeting in
Yeah.
person. Like, we had a great time at a concert together. We bonded on this, like, transgender thing. And, like, and
Yeah.
then, like, okay, so then where's your head at?
So my head is starting to think that how can I give back to the community?
Mm.
What can I like provide? And I'm not a I'm not a good speaker per se, but just like everything that happens in this transition, um, you kind of go outside of your shell, right?
A little bit.
And yeah, but it's true. And so I wanted to kind of
It
push the
is.
boundaries of what I was capable of.
Mm.
And so I was like, I think I want to do a podcast. And I reached out to you, and it was an immediate yes. It was an
Yeah.
immediate yes. You were just like you didn't even say, well, let me think about it. It wasn't even like
No.
it was like yes. I was
Let me
like,
tell you a little bit. I don't think I've shared this part of it with you and like why it was an immediate yes.
uh
And
huh,
and the reason it was an immediate yes is like look, I mean, like I've got like we all do, right? We all have a 40-hour a week job, or like
yeah,
we hope we do have one, and then like we've got kids, family, like this,
yeah,
that, right? There's so many like responsibilities, and I
yeah,
have out of our shell, and it's running really, really great. But it's like I'd love to do more. I'd love
yeah,
to grow the brand. Like it was like, like I put a lot of effort into branding if
yeah,
you're, if you're watching the stuff that I do. And so for me, when you were like, hey, I'd like to band together and take your brand to the next level, and if we work together, we could accomplish this together.
yeah,
I was like, oh my god, like somebody like sees value in what I've done and wants to help me put like another brick on top of the structure. Like,
yeah,
let's do this, of course. Like, let's reach
yeah,
more people. And also too, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like I actually dropped out of college
mm,
because of my speech class. Like
mm,
I like was terrified of public speaking and
yeah.
everything. So I mean, like the fact that I'm doing a podcast now is kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I never even took speech class. So. Yeah, it's scary going into this. Yeah, it
Of
is. But
course.
I think it's good. It's good for both you and I, and
Oh yeah,
I think
I
it's
love it.
definitely going to be an adventure for us, and I
Oh
hope
yeah.
our viewers come along for the ride.
Oh yeah, they will.
Yeah,
They will. They absolutely will because I mean, like what we've already got set up. Look, we don't need.
yeah,
This is your interview. You're taking this off the rails. We need to ask you questions. But no, but
yeah,
real quick, what we do have set up for this podcast, though, like you are gonna like it. It is going to be an amazing
hmm,
experience. Like
yeah,
there's going to be so many great perspectives. I mean,
hmm,
the folks that are going to be coming on they're just amazing. So I can't wait
yeah,
to show everybody what we've got
yeah,
planned. But back
yeah.
to you, Liv. Back to
Uh,
you. Okay. All right. So now let's go back to episode 1. All right, so we've already done 4, 5, and 6. We know how out of our shell started, right? Like we've got the
yeah,
basis here. We've got the podcast. We're right up to the pilot. Let's go back to the beginning. Same question
yeah.
for you. Here you are, you're a kid, you're growing up and everything like that. How are you feeling when you were young, when you were going through your teenage years, when puberty starts to bloom, all that good stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting because growing up,
Mm-hmm.
I through my adulthood, I don't have a lot of recollection of my childhood, and I didn't until this last year.
Mm.
I like 2023, I think I spent a lot of time driving to work.
Okay.
I drive, you drive all day long for a living,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
commute, and my commute's about anywhere from 3 to 4 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time thinking in my car, and I started having these memories of things that I would do when I was a kid. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't get a therapist, right? So I had to do this therapy myself. And I would talk to myself in my car, breaking this
Mm-hmm.
down. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
luckily we all talk on our phones now in the car, so it's okay. Nobody looked at me like I was crazy. But yeah, so anyways, but the first memory that I can remember was twirling around like Wonder Woman and thinking that I could be Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back on that memory. It's just it's a neat memory for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I had forgot it. And I do remember that my parents would tell me that, they're like, how can you become Wonder Woman? You're a boy,
Mm.
and so it was, again, that, being raised that you're the boy. And,
Mm-hmm.
but, I also was really into Grease, and I really connected to like, it's the Sandy version, not necessarily the Greasers. And of course, Olivia Newton-John was in that, and we all know that.
Mm.
I'm not going to go into that story right now, but for all of you that don't know, that's where I got my name. That's where I
Mm-hmm.
picked my name, from Olivia Newton-John. So, but yeah, I think, and then like as far as back to childhood, I think elementary school was definitely like where I realized that I was different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would always hang out with the girls. I think that's kind of a common thing for a lot of us. We always connected more with girls, and
Yeah,
I
seems
definitely
that way.
hung out with the girls. I'm not saying it's applicable to all, but it
Yeah.
certainly was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And going into junior high school, I was come from the generation where you had to take showers. There would be
Mm.
the coach that would be um, there with a clipboard checking people off to make sure that they took their showers.
We
And
should
I
check that
remember
guy
being,
out, by the way. Yeah,
yeah, well, I
right?
mean, this was a while ago,
Just
but
saying.
can you imagine, right? Yeah,
Right? Like clipboard to make sure you're taking a
yeah,
shower? Like, that's
yeah,
weird. That's weird.
yeah. But I remember being
Anyways.
devastated taking a shower with other boys. Just,
Yeah.
it just, yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that would be probably my childhood. You want to go into
Okay.
teenage?
So then, yeah, so then we're going to like teenage years and everything and into your
Yeah,
20s. Like, what are
yeah.
you doing?
So we're
Are
gonna
you
get,
suppressing it down? Are you trying to express
yeah,
yourself? Like, what does your expression look like, ma'am, in your teens and
yeah.
20s?
So in my teens, I start finding the goth scene.
The what scene?
The goth,
The goth
gothic.
scene?
Yeah,
You
being
live?
gothic. Yeah,
Okay, please
yeah,
tell us
I fit
about
into that
this.
category. And
Okay.
um, looking like at the time, I do remember I loved applying the makeup, even though it was black and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
colorful. And I do remember applying that and really liking it, putting on my lipstick, wearing the skirts, wearing the fishnet stockings.
You were so
Um,
close, Liv. You were like right
I
there.
was really
You
close.
were
I
so
was,
close.
and I just loved that, to be able to express that way.
Yeah.
But again, I got pressure from the parents, and
Mm.
what, this is not how you can be. How are you ever going to be? And at this time, I'm starting to become a young adult,
Yeah.
and or at least getting into adulthood. And and they're like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to get a job? And it's an accurate, back then that was an accurate ask.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay. And I remember going to a Grateful Dead concert with my buddy.
Okay.
And the day I went to a Grateful Dead concert, that was the end of the goth scene. It was the end. But I
Really?
was still
That
able
was
to
it.
express myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just switched like that. It happens a lot to deadheads. I won't go into all that. We're limited on time here.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah. A little
anyways,
bit.
yeah. So anyways, I still was able to express myself a little bit, but not to the level that I was when I was goth. And then eventually, I just kind of said, okay, I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna give in. And I don't think I still realized that I was transgender at this point, right? This is
Mm.
just, you know, I just knew that I was different. And
Yeah.
I had gotten married. I was married prior to my wife now, for a
Okay.
couple years. And that was just not going to work out. It was way too restrictive for me,
Mm-hmm.
to express, how I express myself. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so, and then, yeah, so that's that. And then I guess I met Jen when I was 28, I think. 28.
Okay. Well, that's fast forwarding a little bit here. By the way,
Okay. Oh, well,
just so you,
so basically after that I'd given in. Yeah, so I'll let you interview me.
fun fact. Fun fact. While I wasn't like a huge deadhead, my favorite, I was a huge like hippie in high school. Like
Uh-huh.
that was my thing. And I'm not that old. I'm not like old enough to be like an actual hippie in high school. It was
Uh-huh.
just like the style that I adapted. And like,
Yeah.
I want to say 90% of my wardrobe were like tie-dyed, like Dead like teddy bear
Oh.
t-shirts and everything and
Uh-huh.
stuff. And I used to love my
That's
tie-dyed
awesome.
Grateful Dead teddy bear t-shirts.
Yeah.
Anyways. Okay.
I
All
love
right.
that.
So now you're moving forward. Now you're getting married. Now you're in your 20s and everything.
Uh-huh.
You're still like feeling this like desire, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
to express yourself as authentically as possible. You realize that first marriage was too restrictive because you do want to
Yeah.
be expressing yourself. So now you're
Yeah.
moving into your relationship with Jen, who is a wonderful woman. I love Jen. So
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to plug that real quick. I had the opportunity to meet her. I absolutely love her. Hi, Jen.
Yeah.
And so you get married to Jen, and then
Yeah.
and you have a family. You have a big family. The kids are older and
Yeah.
everything like
I
that.
do.
How
Yeah.
does this kind of unfold for you as like your marriage continues on?
Yeah. So, this is, I think, one of the hardest things, because I did live a life as a man, and
Mm-hmm.
I did it pretty well, if I'm going to be quite honest. I I had buddies who, I would go and hang out with, and um, we do the guy things, and it never felt right. It never felt right. I never quite fit into that level of testosterone, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
I just never did, and they were always good about it,
Mm-hmm.
but they knew that I was different too, for sure.
Mm.
And so, but when I was alone, um, I would go out, get something, dress up, put on some makeup, um, and then I would say, "Oh no, this isn't right,"
Mm.
and I would purge. So I'd buy,
Yeah.
and then I'd purge, and it's a common thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then, so that went on for, I mean, gosh, I'm married 25 years in August, so that went on basically for 23 and a half years.
Wow. Okay.
And I think the same during COVID. Do you want me to go this far up now, or do you got something else?
I mean, like, no, because the rest of my questions are really kind of like as we're going through this. So, yeah, just kind of continue on here. So, COVID comes up here, and
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, like, for COVID, there's that joke that, I got the vaccination and now I'm trans.
that was
um,
fun. I loved using that one for a little bit
it was
after I
a
got my
great joke. And
vaccination.
it was
Yeah,
great to
absolutely.
use to people that were transphobes, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I think that was kind of definitely the breaking point, even though we were kind of past COVID when I came out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would be in the house alone, or at least my kids would be doing their school stuff. I had an
Mm-hmm.
office down here, and I would get dressed up, and I would just work from home, and I would be dressed up, and
Mm-hmm.
it just felt so right. And I just was like, this is who I am. Um, and then the same thing happened again. I purged, but this time it was a little bit different because then then I would go out and get something, and it was just more frequent, right?
Mm.
And um, I didn't want to come to terms that I was transgender at all.
Well, let me
So I
ask you
wanted to,
this just real quick. Did you even have the vocabulary for transgender at this point in time? Did you know you were a woman, or were you just thinking, like, what were you thinking about your own actions? Like, was this just something that was, I mean, like, describe like how you were feeling, I guess.
oh, so yeah, I think leading throughout my life of dressing, like in
Mm-hmm.
adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was purging, I think I was just saying, oh, to myself, I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm a cross dresser. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't even know really, like, what a transgender woman was, right? For say,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I think that for, like, at least me, I thought that cross dressers fit the whole line there,
Mm.
right,
Okay.
of
Yeah.
being transgender.
Right.
And so I didn't even realize. I just figured, oh, I'm a cross dresser, and so yeah.
Got it.
But
Okay.
going forward, eventually I couldn't take it anymore. I was driving to work, and it's always thinking about ways that my family could be taken care of if I wasn't here. And so I think we all have that breaking point, and maybe it's not the worst of the worst, but we all have that breaking point where we're in survival mode. And for me, that was the same. And so my egg cracked, and that was in November of 2022.
Okay.
And at that time, I'm like, okay, I'm more than a cross dresser, but I feel like, I got this under control. I can just do this, periodically. I'm okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to come out to Jen.
Mm.
Jen would come. Oh, I'd be sitting there. I'd be wanting to tell her really bad. I'd be up in the room. She'd come in there. We'd be alone. And then finally,
Mm.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Then
then
you tell
finally in
her.
January, I was going to tell her New Year's Day. Didn't tell her. So
Okay.
January 7th now. Finally tell her.
Okay. 1 week
Yeah.
later. How did you tell her? How did that look? Like, what was that all like?
So she comes up, and I just said, I really need to tell you something. And I was like trying to get the words out to tell her. And she's like, I think she thought I was going to ask for a divorce or that I cheated on her.
Mm.
She's like, just rip the Band-Aid off. And
Mm.
I just said, I told her I was a cross-dresser at that time.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's how I came out to her, as a
Got it.
cross-dresser.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. Now, I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, I know that
Mm-hmm.
when I, told Sabrina and everything, there's so much that's like wrapped up in that, especially in our unique situation, in the
Yeah.
unique situation where people transition later in life after having like established families.
Yeah.
You there can sometimes be feelings of you've been lying to me this whole time,
Yeah.
mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to change, who you are as a person? Like, what
Yeah.
does this mean for our family? What does this mean for our
Yeah.
relationship? There's so much that has to then be talked about in these types of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did that go with you and Jen?
Yeah, so no different. I
Mm-hmm.
think at that time she knew. She absolutely 100% knew that it was going to go further than just being a cross-dresser.
Mm.
She said as much. I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
said it flat out right there that at that exact moment. And it did. I mean, I went from identifying as a cross-dresser
Mm-hmm.
to identifying as bigender to
Mm-hmm.
identifying as transgender within a period of like 2 months.
Okay.
And so the second I had ripped the Band-Aid off, and the second I started doing some self-evaluation on myself, I instantly knew that I was transgender. And
Mm.
by the time I told her that I was transgender, she was just like, okay.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. So, but her initial reaction, to answer your question, um, yeah, it was, you lied to me. Essentially, it was,
Yeah.
um, I think that there's a certain level of killing your husband mental that goes along
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And so I think that wasn't any different, for her.
Yeah.
Some wives choose to leave, and some wives choose to stay.
Yeah. No, agreed,
Yeah.
agreed. And I'm glad to see that you both were able to work it out because so
Yeah.
many because it's not the transgender issue is absolutely like obviously isolated and different from like the love that we share with our partners, and the love is
Uh-huh.
not a lie and the love is not made up or whatnot, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that can be absolutely difficult, but like it's got to be extremely difficult to be the spouse of somebody that is coming out like this just because of the uncertainty
Yeah.
initially, and but
Yeah.
as long as the communication obviously is the key to that, is the key
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understanding, and obviously through counseling, through constant
Mm.
communication that can help. But oh my gosh, we're almost running out of time, so I'm going to get through some more questions with you. So you've told Jen
Okay.
you're moving forward, you identify now as a a transgender woman.
Yeah.
You got a family full of kids, and they're not young. I mean, like for me,
No.
it was kind of easy because Vinny was like so young, and so like for
Yeah.
him, he'll never know any different, right? He'll never know any
Yeah.
different. How was it for you and the kids?
So I kind of came out to them as I did with my whole entire coming out journey. I kind of came out to them in stages. I didn't tell them all at the same time.
Okay.
I came out to my daughter first. I think maybe I actually came out to them in the order that they were born, oddly. But I came out to my daughter, and my daughter was just flabbergasted. She was instantly, "You're my mama," and I love
Aw.
you. And, you know, I, her words were that I didn't expect this, but I'm not surprised. And
Mm.
so I thought that was kind of an interesting take.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my three boys, they're Xennials. So
Okay.
I don't know if there's a whole lot of excitement that goes around coming out to someone, a Xennial, because to
Yeah.
them, it's like just be you,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
not saying that all kids are like that, but
Yeah.
I know that my kids, are very diverse in their friendships, and one of my sons actually has a friend who's transitioning right now, and so they were all fine. I
Mm.
think my youngest Steven um, might have had probably the hardest time with it because he was my
Yeah.
buddy. He was my little buddy,
Mm.
and we spent a lot of time going to sporting events and things like that. And although he seemed to be okay with it, I could
Mm-hmm.
see some struggles here and there with it. Yeah,
Mm. Okay. All right.
yeah.
So, but everybody doing good now with it, I'm assuming.
Everybody's doing
Yes.
good. Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good. Good. So, okay. So, just a few quick questions, and then we'll wrap this up here.
Okay.
Um, what was the most surprising part of the transition process for you?
Um, Gosh,
See, this is why I wanted to give you the questions ahead of time, so
I
we could, be
know.
prepared.
I'm gonna say the stress of coming out to everybody.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
did not expect that to be so stressful, and it for me, and I don't know, sometimes it's joyful for people to come out.
Yeah.
I found that to be the extremely stressful part, and I didn't just come out to everybody all at once. I did it in stages, and I guess the other surprising is the flip side of that, which was that I didn't really have anybody like say, "Oh, that's disgusting. Our relationship is over," right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everybody seemed to be pretty engaging, and the worst is, a couple people just kind of fell back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that they are out, right? They just kind of are like, this isn't our thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna kind of just step back, but there's
Mm-hmm.
still some communication. But
Okay.
that's definitely, yeah, that was definitely shocking.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
One more thing that I surprised me, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
was, and I think you know this better than anybody,
Hmm.
is the emotions that come along with
Oh
transitioning.
yes. Oh yes. I am a ball
Yeah,
of
it's,
emotions like
yeah,
24/7. Like there's no way I'm getting through this whole season without crying. I almost did it in the
yeah,
pilot. So, yeah. In fact,
yeah,
I've even got
yeah,
my tissues right here just in
yeah.
case. So,
Oh.
yeah.
I know that there was, like there was an incident yesterday, and we'll talk about that another time. But like, I immediately went over to my coworker and I was like, I said this happened, and I'm not able to really control my emotions like I used to, and or turn them off. I think was the word I
Yeah.
used. And I said, I'm just gonna sit over here at my desk, and if you see tears coming out of my eyes, just leave me alone.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
the
So
mascara,
yeah,
Liv, the
I
mascara.
know.
Trust me, I've cried to my boss more times than I'm proud of. But,
Yeah.
okay, couple more questions
All
real
right. I'll
quick, and
try
then
to
we
make them
wrap it
short
up.
because we are
Yeah,
almost done.
I
Done.
know. We're right there. It's
Yeah.
because I talk too much. This is gonna be a problem on this
Oh
podcast
no,
with
you're
me.
all right.
Your favorite part of transition so far.
Oh gosh, my favorite part is the
Mm-hmm.
community. Yeah, the
Yeah.
community is amazing, and
Yeah.
I never even imagined when I first came out and opened my Instagram account because that's how I started. I did Reddit too, by the way. Like that's good for informational
Oh yeah.
purposes, but I
Yeah.
never met anybody through it,
Not so much on the
and
community piece of it.
yeah, yeah, and just Instagram was just amazing. That was my favorite
Yeah.
part for sure,
Yeah.
and all the people I got to meet.
Yeah.
And then I guess again, emotions. I like being in touch with my
Yeah.
emotions, and it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had a bunch of other questions too, like what was your lowest moment in your transition? What did you have to overcome? Blah 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 blah. But that's why, I mean, we'll have other episodes where it'll just be me and
Yeah,
you and everything eventually down the line. So we'll
yeah,
pick back up and we'll keep the story going and everything. You know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I
Well,
mean,
let's
one
take a quick
thing.
break. Huh? No, please,
Oh,
please.
I was just gonna say, one thing
Yeah.
about, people who transition, we love to tell our stories, and
Oh my gosh.
I think
Yes.
it's, yeah, and I
Don't
think
get me
that's why we're
talking.
doing this. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So now you ready to go to break?
let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. We'll
All
be
right.
right back. Hi, it's me again, Amber. And since we don't really have any sponsors or advertisers yet on the podcast, hint, hint, Chick fil A, give me a call. We can rehab your little image problem you're having. I don't know. I thought I'd maybe talk about like what started it all for Out of Our Shell. And that's that Out of Our Shell Trans Pride watch band that I designed. It's a high quality silicone band that was designed with the trans community in mind. And while it bears the colors of our trans pride flag, I was not exactly out of my shell yet when I designed it. I wanted something that could help me celebrate my pride, even though I wasn't 100% ready to be completely visible yet. And that subtle design has actually helped it earn a perfect 5-star rating on Etsy. Also, $10 from every single purchase goes directly to the Trevor Project, so you know that your money is going to a good place with this. It's available in both the small and large size watch band, and it's available for every Apple Watch Apple has ever made. So I'd encourage you to head on out to Etsy and check it out for yourself. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back to the podcast. All right, well, we're back. What'd you think of that, Liv? It was our very, very first. Well, I mean, I guess it's technically our second episode. We have the Trans Day of Visibility
Yeah,
episode that we dropped, and so
yeah,
but this is our first like official episode being
yeah.
the pilot. How'd you think it went?
I think it went good.
Good.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed asking the questions, and I guess I enjoyed being interviewed.
You did a great job. You did an amazing
Yeah,
job. No, this is gonna be a lot of
yeah,
fun, and you're a fantastic
absolutely.
interviewer and
Yeah,
everything. So,
yeah.
well, very,
How
very
about
cool.
you?
Oh, I loved it. I think this is so much
Yeah,
fun. Honestly, like it was a terrifying experience to think about doing a podcast at first, but it was also an exciting experience to think about like
yeah,
what we would be able to do with this, the people we're going to talk to, like the
yeah.
community that we're going to build from this. So for me, like I don't know, I'm really really excited. I'm excited to see where this goes.
I
So,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Cool.
excited to hear everybody's stories. I just can't wait.
I know,
Yeah,
me too. It's going to be really, really awesome. And then also, too, I mean, like, not only the people's stories, but we're going to have people on here that are going to educate. They're
yeah,
going to, I mean, like, I know we have a doctor, we've got some activists on here and everything, and it's
uh
just going to
huh.
be really, really great to
Yeah,
get to
it's
hear
gonna be good.
everybody, you
Yeah,
know? Absolutely.
yeah.
So, all right.
There's a lot
Well,
in the community.
yeah, there is. This is going to go on for seasons and seasons and seasons. So
Yeah,
I hope you guys are
yeah.
all ready to hear my voice for a long time. All right, that's all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank my co host, Liv Purcell, for joining me on our pilot episode of Out of Our Shell, the podcast. I also want everyone to know that you can find us on Instagram at Out of Our Shell, grab our merch on Etsy at Out of Our Shell, and tune into the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And please help our little podcast grow by liking this episode and sharing it with a friend. We really appreciate all the support that friends like you provide to us. So, on behalf of Liv and myself, we'd like to remind all of you to follow your joy because it can never lead you in the wrong direction. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week on Out of Our Shell, the podcast. Bye. Hey there,
Come out of your shell. Hey there, come out of your shell.
Don't forget to subscribe.